Hi. How are you? Ah, I send it to Professor Madhi and Raghuveer. Send it to or Anil Joseph also. He will forward it. You send it to Raghuveer also. That. ಹೊರಡ್ತೀರಾ? No problem. We'll lift him. Yeah. I will let distribute this. Senior members ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಇದೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಮೇಬಿ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದು ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಇದು? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, okay.
ಒಂದೆರಡು ರೆಫರ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, good morning to all of you. At the outset, I'm extremely delighted today for our chapter celebrating the Diamond Jubilee on completing 60 years. I'm really proud and also honored to be associated with this forum. As Professor BRS was mentioning this morning, you got all the knowledge in your head through the stalwarts sitting here. It's the same thing for me too, sir. With all the wisdom and knowledge with our seniors who have laid the legacy of this chapter for 60 long years, we need to give them a big round of applause for all of them that you are twins. Thank you. Thank you. So today's session is on IGS Foundation. The next about 10-12 minutes, I will brief about the objective of this foundation, and I will also set the context for today's discussion after the presentation of highlighting on the theme of this panel discussion, the ethical practices in forefront. Professor Sitaram called me. He is on the way. He went to department. He is just joining us in few minutes. This IGS Foundation, here is the committee members, current committee members. It all started few years back at National Executive Committee. The idea was from Professor J.L. Shivkumar Babu that we should do something on IGS Foundation. This IGS, there is a ISSMG Foundation, International Society of Soil Mechanics Foundations, in similar lines, and Professor M.N. Viladkar was entrusted on this responsibility. Unfortunately, we don't have him today. So later on, the executive committee asked me to convey this committee, and then we had a lot of deliberation. Here is the vision of this IGS Foundation, which is to be a special corpus fund that can be utilized for any technical activity. The important objective is to create an impact and outreach of IGS both nationally and internationally. So the objective of this foundation is to conduct training programs. We will going to discuss after this presentation. Certification programs, create awareness across all the chapters, take up technical activities like we have a lot of disasters, floods, hill slides, slope failures, etc. So where IGS can nominate related experts in the region and give the first-hand information, first-hand report for the further course of action. So then the idea came how to raise funds. So we can have voluntary contributions from members and well-wishers to increase in the advertisement tariff, special fund drive through corporates directly go to this foundation, and many other ideas. So one of them is to conduct training programs. There are a lot of topics. I'll just illustrate a couple of them just to set the context for the discussion. And we listed out there are many areas in geotechnical engineering that we need to address. So the way forward, we welcome Professor TGS. Yeah, sure. Thanks. So we wanted to have a pilot project and explore all the legal and statutory compliance and seek information from our well-wishers and then continue this activity. So here is the ISSMG Foundation, where they fund the members to travel around for attending conferences and learn from the activities, and this was started way back in 2009, and later on in 2013 it became a charity commission of England. So the similar idea was as to explore Professor Babu's initiative, and later on we deliberated. In 2022, we made a recommendation to the executive committee that all the members of the IGS Foundation committee agreed to commission this, and we wanted to present to the AGM as well. So EC in Cochin conference they approved, and the further AGM in the same Cochin conference also approved the idea of IGS Foundation. Now the pilot project to be initiated immediately, and we had several deliberations. Again, we listed out all the aspects that we had discussed in the previous meeting. So when the AGM had passed, the committee did not meet for 2-3 occasions for various reasons, and later on in 2023 we deliberated again, and then we said that okay, let us continue working on this and develop a working model. So what we have to do? So let us roll out the information about this foundation in the website, newsletters, and also it can be circulated to all the members. So the message on IGS Foundation and its objectives shall be presented and deliberated in the workshops conducted in various chapters across the country, and this suggestion was made by Professor T.G. Sitaram. And immediately, as one of the member, S.K. Prasad, they said Mysore chapter is new, so I'll be happy to host this first workshop in Mysore on the theme ethical practice in forefront. Okay. So once few workshops are conducted and the message deliberated at the event by members in the coming months, the feedback will be placed to the IGS Foundation committee and then subsequently to the executive committee for a long-term working model. And also Professor TGS emphasized that skill development and certification program as one of the long-term objective of this foundation, which all the other members agreed to, and which is also the need of the hour. So the committee will deliberate further on this once the initial few workshops are conducted. So that is where we are here also. After this brief presentation, we're going to have the panel discussion. And we requested our headquarters to allocate 5 lakh rupees as seed funding in the previous executive committee meeting, and they have agreed to fund this. I myself personally also have promised that I will contribute 5 lakhs to this IGS Foundation for this. So the 2 activities were planned, one in April 2024 and in Bangalore subsequently in May. But apparently we were the first to host this. Unfortunately, Professor Prasad was on travel, so he couldn't organize this, and we have a representative from Mysore chapter, Chetan and Girish. Welcome, both of you. Welcome. So you had to host this because there is a commitment. So after this, so we will have this May 25. Sorry, my typo error. We planned 24th earlier, so it's construed as 25, the first one. Now, this foundation shall have activities different than what IGS is actually doing. This should also run as a structured social business. Because you know, if it is only on some honorary roles, then it will not progress much faster for the vision that we have. So it has to run as a structured social business. So what is this social business? Social business is any activity that impacts the society. Okay. So how can we run that? We are not finalized yet. We were waiting to collect the message from the workshops and also at the same time come out with all the legalities involved in framing this structure. So there are 3 ways I explored, being a student of law, trust, societies and Section 8 companies. So trust is an agreement between parties, society is a group of people who share mutual goals, and Section 8 companies a non-profit enterprise associated with a commercial venture. So all these 3 ways of organizing any activity is for a social cause. A trust requires minimum 2 members, society 7 members, and Section 8 company requires minimum 2 members again. And these are governed by different acts, Trust Act, Societies Act, and the Companies Act. So we not finalize the modality. So we will get the legal report from different legal people and then submit to headquarters. We will also consult our Srirang Raju for his opinion after this, and then we will present it to the executive committee and to develop the working model. Now, with this brief background on the IGS Foundation and its objective, we wanted to conduct some workshops on the theme ethical practices in forefront. This morning Anil Joseph also very nicely illustrated the importance of assessing the foundation, because success of any geotechnical engineer is buried in the ground. Success of a structural engineer is visible. We go to Dubai, we take a selfie with the Burj Khalifa, post it on Facebook, but we geotechnical engineers, regardless of how complicated the structures, you can't post any of your activity because it's all buried in the ground. Okay. With the theme, I wanted to just illustrate two important aspects that has come across in my own work, and then I will set the context and the floor for further deliberation. We had an opportunity to look into the project of high-rise building, which was initially planned to be on board piles of 900 millimeter diameter. Subsequently, one of the contractor, he proposed to have an alternate scheme of installing segmental precast driven piles. The economical advantage prompted the owners to go for these alternate schemes, and the piles construction started. About 20% of the piles started. Then the contractor started excavating for putting the pile cap, and you could see on the left hand top side all the piles were inclined. These are not rakered piles. These are actually loaded piles to carry the loads from a superstructure of ground plus 17-story building. I not put the original picture here because the matter is sub judice. I do not want to name anyone, or neither the people nor the project. That's not important. So what is important is the technical aspect I wanted to highlight. In the context, I don't want to name that. It is a sub judice project. Yeah. This presentation, our discussion is streamed live on the YouTube. So people are watching all over the place. But what is important is, see, there are several steps in designing the pile foundation. I will not read this thoroughly, but what is marked green is what the contractor has done, that he has taken the column loads divided by the capacity and number of piles, but he has not even computed a static pile capacity based on the geotechnical data. And later on, he has performed vertical load test, loading the pile to 2.5 times. I will just talk about this. This is important. And so with several routine static load test, I'll club these two together, but none of the other things he has done. Neither the static load test, pre-installation study, conducting monitoring measurements, even the buckling criteria, because it's a slender pile, he gave 400 millimeter square. You have deep-seated soft place, 18 to 25 meter depth. Buckling will govern your capacity. In the absence of any pile driving monitoring, estimation is done using dynamic formula. Now, when you look at the literature, the proceedings from IISc conference in 1941 is the original paper. I thank Professor Subbarao to extract this. The percent of observed load at failure on the x-axis and capacities, ultimate capacities developed by several dynamic formula. If there were to be a very good correlation between static and dynamic, all the data points should have converged towards this. But apparently, there is a huge scatter which tells us that the limitations of dynamic formulae, but this was used in the project. Even in our IS code, still it specifies. We have brought this to the committee, so we need to talk about this. Later on, Pile Dynamics brought several technology. In one of their newsletter, they mentioned this referring to the same conference, ACE conference. Now, geotechnical investigation is the first and foremost thing for any project. Around the world, for stall structure, an intensive site investigation is carried. So within the footprint, you see about less than 50 meters, how many number of boreholes are made? But for this project, which is on an area of about 3 acres, only 4 boreholes are made. That too only before a joint development agreement between the contractor and the landowner. And later on, the same data is used for further analysis. Now, when you look at the stratigraphy, the sand is available at 52 to 41 to 52 meters. The piles that were driven, some of them are terminated here, 32 meters. Most of them between this depth, and some of them are also gone beyond 55 meters. Okay. So here's the summary: 60 metric tons for this size. When you look at the geotechnical data, initially estimated 900 to 40 metric tons, but the contractor designed the piles with 180 metric tons, which is 3 times more than the geotechnical capacity. The philosophy that was adopted. Then later on, so these are the instances, so I'll skip this. This is self-explanatory. These are the piles total. These are some of them with 32 meters, and these are the set of piles, most of them between 35 to 45, and some of them between this depth, 45 to 55, and few of them 55 meters. So the most important thing I want to emphasize is such a deep pile in this kind of refusal stratum can happen because of this. Okay. The contractor said, you choose a pile, I will do the load test. So the owners, they choose the pile, he did the load test. So when you have on the same pile group, the piles of different depths, 32 meters to 76 meters, all the 5 piles, it puzzled people, and then they wanted to have a geotechnical borehole within that, in between the piles. So when you look at one of the pile is terminated in decayed wood, 32 meters. The same group one is gone up to 42 meters. There is refusal stratum beyond this depth, and but still the piles are being driven. Maybe it's broken, I don't know. Below that, when the static load test was asked to perform, contractor performed. But there are many piles before this contractor was awarded to this contractor. There were many other agencies who did. So I like to draw your attention on the measure to gross settlement. This is the pile top settlement, and also the elastic compression of the pile. This is in order because your elastic compression is less than measured to gross settlement. But all the piles with this precast piles were tested by the piling contractor. You had a total settlement of about only around 3 to 4 millimeter, and it is much less than your elastic compression line. So this puzzled all of us. How is it possible? Okay, and this is not okay in our technical terms. And also we looked at large database the contractor has supplied. One of them, he claimed, it's a world record we presented in one of the international conference of driving this 400 millimeter, 235 millimeter pile to 150 meters below the ground. Even with that large depth of a slender pile, his total settlement measured is only around 4 millimeter. So today we are going to deliberate on ethical practice. I am not judging here whether it's an intention or otherwise. Even if it is not an intention, we need to skill them, we need to train them and create an awareness. If it is with intention, also we need to train them on role clarity, code of honor, integrity, values. So these are some of the training that we need to impart on our younger generation, because today morning our president talked about safety. This is a ground plus 17-story building, and we have piles which are this is in this is in one of the coastal cities of the country. So that is not important. Sir, we will talk about it later. That is not important. I'm only setting the context for today's discussion. And also when you look at Professor Subbarao extracted this from one of the textbook, I think Hansen's textbook, that the elastic compression line is OO dash. The refusal pile, it is an end-bearing pile. They have treated this with the assumption. So, for an end-bearing pile, all the load settlement curve is below the elastic compression line. So, ethical practice two ways, intention or otherwise. So, let us not look at what is the problem here, but I wanted to set the context that there is something going wrong intentionally or otherwise. In regardless, the IGS Foundation should and will contribute in building talent pool and skill in the country as one of the main objectives. And later on, the load tests were unreliable and questionable, so we ignored that. So, I like to acknowledge the people who are involved in looking at this data set, including Professor BRS, so he is getting that information on many projects, including this project. Thank you, sir, for all the contributions that you think is. No. So, acknowledge people who have helped to find a remedy and solution for this project. Okay, sir, I repeat, acknowledge people who found remedy and solution to project, not actually involved in the project. Okay, now the last one, another 5 minutes, I want to show one more thing and then we will get into the discussion. We conduct high strength dynamic tests by instrumenting the pile with strain gauge and accelerometers below the pile top. One of the projects, 7 piles, the testing agency has given the report to have achieved a required capacity of 415 metric tons. Okay. Now, this again had a problem. We had to do a forensic study, relook into the database. When we analyze this data, this was the photograph given by the site. We all know that this is a improper preparation of pile tops with such a sensitive sensors, accelerometer and strain gauge mounted on this poorly prepared pile top, you won't get any data. So, right side is the raw data, force, time history. The separation between the black and the blue line is your capacity. Okay. Now, interestingly, in the software, this is the total capacity, skin friction and the end wearing. The summation of the skin friction and the end wearing is not matching with your total capacity. The software will not do this kind of mischief. In another set of another set of data, there is no separation of force and velocity. That means it's zero capacity, despite they reported that it has achieved its capacity. So, what happened to safety? Any one of you will buy the property of the residential building when the capacity is reported that doesn't have any capacity, right? So, later on we will have to redo the testing and I will skip these slides, okay? And we collected some good data, then there were bad data, we used it and we tend to provide some solution to the project. And I wanted to have one highlight here on the same pile which was retested. There is one of the local agency, they mounted an European model, we use an American model, but that doesn't have calibration for several years. Creating an awareness is a need of the hour and we will have to ignore this. After ignoring, we get some solutions to put some CLSM layer controlled low strength material and then integrate it with a raft, then the building completed. Okay. In 2020, recently this was inaugurated by the Chief Minister of that state. Now, I try to acknowledge all the team members who are involved in looking at this data to come with a solution. Now the building is standing tall. So, whether intention or otherwise, so this high strength dynamic test is a technology for 50 years. Anybody having money, they buy the equipment, they don't know how to do the testing nor the interpretation. It's not a fault of the person involved, but jeopardizing the safety. So, if it is doing intentionally, then we need to teach on role education, integrity, value, code of honor. If it is not intentional, we need to actually skill them on the technology and train them to perform what they're supposed to perform. With this professional responsibility, we associate with pile dynamics and represent them to provide training and tech support. I have conducted several programs in the last few years, training more than 1,000 engineers across the country, because these kind of problems is not one or two. I just showed you 2 cases. I can show you 50 number of cases in the entire last 10 years. So we have another entity to focus on this training, calibration, and the product service. I'm happy to share I achieved this expert level in the PDI, PDCA proficiency test when Professor Sitaram said there is a certification program need of the hour. One of the services is already, I'm just giving an example so we can deliberate this further, how it can bring into the foundation. I'm also happy to share I'm the first to be in India and Middle East region. There is only 9 individuals outside US who have achieved this. Okay. I'm also equally proud that there are 25 of our engineers who are advanced level or higher. Only reason I do not want that, not an intentional kind of work in our own projects. We want the people to go and deliver what they're supposed to deliver. That also gives confidence to all the stakeholders. Is this problem only in India? Not at all. So I get data from other geographies. This is from Middle East. You know the strains are not returning to 0. Okay? So that means an accumulated strain, you can't analyze it for capacity. So we train them, but still they analyze it and 780 metric tons of capacity is reported. Okay? Now, when do the analysis, this is the impedance profile, a board pile. If you have that kind of integrity in the pile, how can you give a capacity to the pile? Okay? Maybe people are not aware how to interpret and analyze. So I go to different geographies also to promote quality testing and education. In Saudi conducted, I reached to Bahrain, to Ministry of Works, Ministry of Transportation, Housing. Okay. So the objective of this discussion is IGS Foundation. What is the way forward? We wanted to have the theme ethical practices in geotechnical engineering and how IGS Foundation can bridge the gap today between the conflict of capacity and the demand. So I invite the experts on the stage. Let us have the deliberation and then we can conclude this session. So may I invite our president to come on stage, please. Professor TGS. Professor Mahdi, please. AP Singh. GLS Babu. Sir, please come. A little bit. You can switch off this, please. Can you switch off? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can slightly move a little bit closer so we can read things. So I will let the floor, sir. So I will let this floor to continue with the experts on the. Irli sir, okay. Yeah. May I have the mic, Kodi, please? Mic. Alla, idu. Alla, idu. Where's the mic? We'll have the opening remark from the experts. Kodama, kodo. And then we want larger participation from all of you here to give your suggestion. So we will invite Professor TGS to start. Thank you, sir.
Actually, I came just now. I thought some of you should start and then maybe anyway.
No, this is on the foundations. Later on, we'll talk about the chapter.
This is on
Foundation, IGS Foundation.
IGS Foundation and ethical.
Ethical practices in forefront.
Namaskara, ellarigo. Very happy to be here, when we are all discussing about the Indian Geotechnical Society Foundation. So this is actually almost in line with ISMFE Foundation. There is a international foundation also created. I remember about 10 years back or 15 years back.
2009.
2009, they had created, so that this could work like a Section 8 company, where you can generate funds and distribute for the cause of the problems what we are going to address through this foundation. So this, we had one meeting, if I remember correctly. I had attended only one meeting. Maybe Partharthi had several meetings. So I attended one of the meetings where we deliberated some of these issues which are relevant. So what we thought is that this IGS Foundation will be a sort of a cornerstone for progressing, some of these activities which doesn't cover in the society. Okay, that's one thing we would like to tell you. The second is, we should also make young people aware about the issues, which is in a broader issues, which bothers the society as a collective effort. So its impact we have to see. I think once we start activities on this, then we can actually look at it, how it's going to. It will also should support some of the research initiatives where we could not address some of these. So we have to generate some funds in a Section 8 company and create some of these activities to that. So one important activity is actually geotechnical investigation itself, and what kind of quality of investigation is happening. And the second is important aspect is the ethical practice and awareness of that among the young geotechnical engineers. I hope, Partharthi today presented actually 2 case studies. One is he never disclosed what is the location. As Professor Srinivas Murthy was saying, it is all depends on what is the ground condition there. And for experts, who are in this hall, would definitely can decipher if they know the location. I mean broadly, because we do have an idea about the ground conditions in most of our countries where we have worked with. But this is actually more than the ground condition. Actually, this is because of the practice of the individual people. So we have to really make them aware and create an awareness saying that we have to be truthful in the assessment of the characteristic of the ground, and that needs to be adopted in the design and then going into construction. There are 3 phases here. So identifying where it went wrong is a big challenge actually. It's we have seen Leaning Tower of Pisa leaned, and even the jokes are still saying that we didn't spend much money on the investigation. That is number 1. So it is also the similar kind of a problem. What the first case study, he said 4 boreholes are done. That means we didn't investigate properly. More than the error and all that, we did not investigate. So we are actually looking at the case study of Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is a classical case study we actually presented to all young people. How it went wrong. But in case of Leaning Tower of Pisa, something else also happened, because the time they've taken to construct the Pisa Tower itself is several hundred years. So in that case, what happened is each ruler who came after that, he tried to correct in his own way and his own methodology. So once it is tilted, it was tilted. So it is no more a vertical tower there. But here the situation is little different. But I think this is one such example. But coming back to the bigger picture of this, ethical practice is not just only to geotechnical engineering. It is to entire profession of civil engineering and even beyond. So that is what we need to discuss. How do we educate our young people to be truthful? Because in olden days, the kind of tension or the workload was also reasonably, they used to choose what they can chew. So they used to do one project at a time, carefully looking at it. But today's generation, they'll be taking simultaneously n number of projects. You saw, see, Partharthi is traveling across the world. There could bound to be problems. See, these are all chicken and egg problems. It's not going to go away, but one has to be little bit educate them. So it's a very formal education, and ethical practice is very essential. That is what I would like to tell you. Formal education. What is an ethical practice? We need to clearly define, because the errors are not the ethical draftees. Okay? Errors of not conducting a geotechnical investigation is not an ethical practice. I think our Sri Raju is here. He will tell us. I think, that is a judgment error also. There could be a judgment error saying that the ground is uniform, 4 is enough. So all these, are possibilities. So we need to know exactly the ground conditions. You want to decide, okay, a site visit. I'll just tell you my own experience of in Sri Ram temple. Okay, when Ayodhya temple was constructed, they had whatever reason they had decided we'll go for 5 foundation. If you ask me a question, it is only a ground plus 2-story building. Why do you require a pile foundation? First question. Okay, unless you had found something very, very abnormal ground conditions below. But is that the case? Because they had opened 100 feet by 100 feet for many court cases for several years. Okay, they have exactly opened almost 10 to 15 meters, 100 feet by 100 feet only. That is for the court cases to establish this site was actually Sri Ram temple site. Okay? Not for geotechnical investigation. But geotechnical investigation, when it was done, our own friend actually, Sanjers did that geotechnical investigation. 7 boreholes he had done. 1 borehole went up to 60 meters, and other boreholes were terminated somewhere 20 to 25 meters below the ground level, natural ground level. But first of all, there was no natural ground level also, because it's all filled up ground. Because it's also civilization, and in a city like Ayodhya, it is you will never find any hard rock or any structured methodology, because it's all sand, maybe dense sand, loose sand, and then maybe civilization and dense sand, loose sand. That's the kind of structure. So the first question I was asked the committee was, why do we require a pile foundation? There were actually, when I went to the site in the peak COVID time, there were almost 6 rigs to drill the pile foundation. And then there were other in the committee, later on the committee met. Then only, what happened, all the 5 piles which were casted at site have actually failed. Because one other important thing we also should know, this is a temple which has to be built as per Vastu Shilpa Shastra, where they didn't want to use any steel or iron. So no steel, no iron, even in foundation. That means all these piles were casted only with concrete, no reinforcement. Okay, there are about 1.2 meter diameter, and some are 30 meter, 2 or 30 meter depth, up to 30 meter for vertical capacity. Another ones were about 18 meters depth, and they were for the lateral capacity testing. All of them failed. The failure is also like, almost like, it deformed a little while, and then sudden fall. Okay, very sharp failure. That means it's a punching type of a failure which has happened. I don't know whether it is because of the cavities below or concrete itself has failed. So there was not much clarity. Even all your tests, what you mentioned, was done. So the second point was, okay, when the committee been asked to look at this, and everybody was looking at it, and Professor Raju also highlighted, and he said, we should do stone columns. Anyway, I said I have to visit the site. I cannot tell you before that. Then I visited the site, then looked at it. Then I gave a suggestion. This has to be completely opened up, because none of these deep foundations is going to work if you are not using the reinforcement. And when piles of diameter of 1.2 meters have failed, there is no other methodology is going to work. So anyway, it worked in a blessing in disguise. They have decided to open the foundation up to 14 meters. And by doing so, something good also happened, because they could find 3 old temples buried below that temple. So that's the good part of it. Sometimes, in geotechnical engineering, mistakes also can lead to good things. So with this remark, it is very vaguely I put the points on ethical practice and investigations and these issues, and maybe we'll listen to others and then we'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I will come
May I request Anil Joseph to opening.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon once again. And it's a very important aspect, the need of IGS Foundation. Because we know there are so many things we have to contribute. And there were two typical cases which was presented by Partha showing the ethics. I feel more than the ethics, the ignorance was the key factor. Because both the projects I was also involved in some way or the other. We don't want to disclose. But then some way or the other I was involved in. Certain times ignorance is a big thing, and the lack of education or knowledge or sharing of knowledge is a big problem. Where people are successful in some place, unfortunately geotechnical engineering varies so much that if you are success in some area, it cannot be copied to another area. So that particular geology or locality, like Srivastava Murthy sir pointed out, it has to be looked into. So that was one aspect of that. Foundation is necessary, needed, but then we should have a mechanism where government has to promote this sort of thing. Currently, I was telling that we spend crores of rupees on education. And what we are doing for the engineers who are coming out, there had to be finishing school, training, and this IGS Foundation has to play a part there. Where government has to fund that and put an organization like IGS, Institution of Engineers India, Indian Concrete Institute, research on concrete, or Builders Association of India to come out, research on what has to be needed, and then we can improve the standard of our engineers. Like Sitaram sir always points out, it's only that final touch they are missing when they are coming out. Even though we have about 10 lakh engineers coming out, but that's a very vital aspect. So we have to train them, and practice makes a man perfect. And without practice, you cannot preach also. So the practice is very much essential and has to be brought in. And IGS Foundation is a very good concept. We have to get it officially with the support of the government mechanism, because we have got network. It has to be made into a mandatory thing, and people have to go in. Now we tell the case of test, what is the regulatory mechanism to do testing? NABL also, so many labs are not accredited by NABL. And even the accredited lab, there is no policing enforcement in place. So that is, I keep on telling, the law, if there is a law written somewhere, it is not going to help. It has to be enforced. Who has to enforce? It is us to enforce. Because this becoming part of the society, tomorrow you see a mistake happening, you should be a whistleblower. You should tell that this is wrong. I was just telling Aruna, I told them before this work started that this is not going to stand. So they invited me to show me something that how it is working well before this failure started happening. So even we tell that, they don't accept that because there is no mechanism or no authority to check. So we should have inspectorate, like the electrical inspectorate we have. There should be a mandatory professional engineers bill. That's one aspect. That which is Karnataka is trying with the support of help of Srikanth. It's already signed by the governor, so it will become an act now. But more than that, the act doesn't help. We should have an enforcement agency. I call it inspectorate. Now, how the electrical inspectorate changed electrical consultancy? When we were there, started our structural consultancy or geotechnical consultancy, there were not many electrical consultants. Now, there are electrical consultants who charges more than us. MEP, electrical and all. But what they say, no, inspectorate won't allow. Inspectorate is a different body, not the government body, and they control that. We want authority, like the engineering education is controlled by IISc. The profession of engineering has to be controlled by body, and definitely government should authorize people like IGS to come up and to have a system in place so that the foundations are monitored, corrected, and instrumented. The people who are doing the works right now, unfortunately, are totally unprofessional people, and many times for small margins, because now it is always the L1 bidder who will get the job. So the quality has to be made mandatory, and the systems has to be brought in. And like Srikanth told, I know that it has to be there for every building, but then somewhere we have to begin. Somewhere we have to begin. That is why I agreed for, because so much of resistance, agreed for any building more than 15 meters. I know that each building, everything has to come in, but then to bring a law across a country like India is quite difficult. Like Mahendra Raj, a renowned structural engineer, so I used to tell him that so many years we are fighting for this engineers building, it's not happening, and he tells that from 1983 onwards, I am fighting. So you have to keep continuing the effort to bring it, because we all know that it is needed for the society, and all of us, especially the younger generation, has to take lead to bring it into a practice. Definitely IGS Foundation is needed. Ethics, I feel most of us have ethics, but then we are ignorant of what is going to happen in the soil, and that is where we go wrong. And the teaching and communication and training and certification, that is the very vital aspect. Sitaram sir points out that certification and finishing schools with the funds from government has to come in, monitored and make sure that they are capable to handle. And if something goes wrong, the inspectorate has to work independently and has to act upon that. In Dubai, any building you do, we submitted design, we go to Dubai, present before them the design, and before every pour of concrete, the inspectorate team come from the municipality, check that, sign that and get it approved. So this is elsewhere across the world it is there. Why not in India? So it's time for us to start. This is my 2 cents of thoughts to this process. Definitely we need the foundation, and there should be a mechanism to come up with, because one more point which I would like to point out, ISSMG had a foundation. Now we are trying to remove that foundation out because of the complication in running the system. So the ideas are good, but we should have good systems in running and make sure that we don't end up into problem. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you, Anil. So, may I request Babu sir to give his opening remarks?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's a very good initiative that we have a discussion, an open discussion on foundation, IGS Foundation. In fact, I think we should congratulate IGS that it is approved. You know, we have been working towards this foundation because the thing is, it's there in ISSMG, there is no doubt about it, but their activities are limited. But in India, you know, the extension is more towards Western countries where the practices are well made, investigations are precise, there are a lot of quality checks everywhere. But in IGS Foundation, the role has to be much bigger. You know, like as pointed out by all others, that we need to have quality control programs, skill development. In fact, Professor Sitaram was mentioning that we should start activities, have a roadmap, have a list of activities, and you know, see how it develops. Because I think, particularly the kind of, I think even Anil was mentioning that, you know, the kind of investment that we have in infrastructure we are going to have, the geotechnical investigations estimation is not there. I see everywhere poor quality investigations and many other things. So I believe that they should start the activities immediately, whatever skill development, and then you chapters are already there ready. Come up with a program, because I think one Partha is not sufficient. He is not sufficient. He himself does some programs, but it's not enough. Where are the chapters? You know, we are not doing. I mean, we don't mind doing, but let us have a framework. What kind of syllabus you want? What do you want in, say, for example, you're talking about ethical practice, but the kind of, whoever is doing water boring is a soil investigation company. That's a fact, you know. The poor quality of investigations is everywhere, and we need to bring in onto the table. In Bangalore chapter itself, there are 50, 60 soil investigation companies, right from Yeshwanthpur to wherever you want. You know, like, you ask him, where did you pass out? I came from this college, but did you know anything about this? I read this book of 30 years back. I mean, so we don't have any skill development. I mean, of course, I don't know how do we bring in them to this thing, but I believe that I think we should start the activities first. And the other thing that I just saw, you know, there are two things. Like in Hong Kong, you have Geotechnical Control Office, right? So any geotechnical investigation or any other critical structure is that they go by their approvals. Here also now NPA, I think if you look at their specifications, the role of geotechnical engineering is quite emphasized very well. This is one thing that we need to really slowly bring in, whether in BBMP or anywhere. Geotechnical engineers have to be consulted on these things, and it should be mandatory because you're talking about engineers bill. And we need to bring them. The second thing that I find, like you have GEAR, you know, Geotechnical Extreme Hazards, Extreme Events Reconnaissance Survey, GEAR in US. You know, when there's a problem in Kerala, they came to all the way from US and then they did the survey, and then within 15 days, they gave a report, disaster mitigation report. And after 2 years also, we know we don't have any report. I mean, you should download from the report. And what we are doing as a community, we should really respond to that needs, whether it is in Joshimat, I think somebody said they're all confidential. I don't know. Actually, we don't have any picture of geotechnical engineering and what are the problems there in Joshimat. Okay, they're all open discussions. Somebody may discuss in somewhere else, but I think it's high time that we need to really look at some of those things much more critically. And IGS office cannot do that. IGS, normally we have 2 people there attending, with all, everybody must know. You have people who process, because we are opening lot of chapters, they're quite busy with that. But actually, your technical society, you should handle technical things and improve technical, knowledge and all that. And it's good that we have 2 professionals heading, which is something a rare thing in IGS thing. It's only professors, people were calling it a professor society rather than professional society. Now we see that then it has to be a professional society. There's no doubt about it. Let us just move towards that. My appeal and request would be that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. May I request AP Singh to give his opening remark?
Yeah. Regarding this IGS Foundation, I feel it should be there. There is a big need of necessity of this IGS Foundation, because there are so many activity which, being a non-profit organization, IGS cannot do it. And a lot of activity need to be done, like social responsibility and training the technical persons, and whoever professionals are coming, they are not well trained in their institute, because they don't have proper exposure to academics as well as the industry during their college time or graduation time. So there is a big need, a big gap between practice, theoretical knowledge, degree, and then professional experience. So for that, initially we have to, and any company, if it is recruiting some graduate, then they want some, from the day one, they want profiting days. They don't want to waste their manpower for training and all, and teaching the basic things. So what this IGS Foundation can do it in a very big way and in a large way, and profit will be that this exposure and visibility of IGS as well as IGS Foundation both will penetrate up to the BTech third year students. So that will be the biggest benefit we are going to get with the IGS Foundation and all. And regarding this professional ethics, so the professional ethics, and that is the mandatory requirement for any profession. What all professionals, if they are not, maybe individual, maybe organizational, if they are not professionally ethical, they will be thrown out from the career, from the very, after few years and all. We take the example of structural failures to learn and get the good knowledge, how it got failed. We should also project the companies who are blacklisted, why they were blacklisted, and what ethical errors they have made. So that should also be there. And all, starting from the BTech, when we teach them, like bring them from the engineering fraternity. So I think there should be a compulsory course on ethical education or ethical practice and how to do. I remember in many institutes, students take the oath after during the graduation. If I am going there out of this institute, I will follow this, I will not do this, I will not let my institute down and all. So all these things. And regarding the profession, there should be one professional course, compulsory professional, like humanities, which we read in the, we study in the, during our BTech, or even PhD also, one compulsory course is there. So like that, it should start from the very beginning itself, from the BTech first year, and it should be taught. Another professional environment should be created in the country, like who can open the laboratory, who can run the industry successfully, who should be bound to fail. Anybody can initiate doing a business, like geotechnical investigation and all, but if he is not practicing, following the good practices, then environment should be like that, he will not get any work after 1 year. As a beginner he can get, but once he doesn't improve his quality, so automatically he is out from the market. So he is not able to do that. So in that way it will become compulsory for them to just to improve their quality. So that is the one way. and monitoring, consistent monitoring for quality and all, that is the another requirement, so that they are promoted and to follow their ethical practice. And regarding other mandatory requirement like NABL, as NABL functioning, that is very much required for the growth of the industry, ethical growth of the industry, but they should also be practical. NABL, they should also follow some ethical issues. So those are the things which need to be addressed and implemented so that our industry flourishes, and our Indian companies are taken with a good sense. This is the company who is doing good, or this is the institute who teaches, who produces the product with balanced knowledge of academics as well as the practical experience. So that is my opening remark.
Thank you, Dr. Anil. Can we pass to Professor Madhvi Lata?
Yeah, good discussion is happening, and I agree with the remarks of most of the panelists. About ISSMG Foundation, I think most of us are benefited by this foundation. Many of our students get travel grants to visit different countries for participating in international conferences. It's a very good initiative. And of course, IGS, why not? We should have a foundation. It's crazy rich. I'm sure all of you know it's not a poor body. Indian Geotechnical Society is a very rich society. And it's time we give back to the society.
I don't agree.
Naturally, you can't agree.
It's time we give back to the society, and IGS Foundation will be a first step towards giving back to the society.
Members are also not poor. They are also sincerely.
Right, that's why we are getting 5 lakh donation in one word from Dr. Parth sir.
Days back, I was discussing with somebody, then he was estimating right now, if we take 75 years of history of this IGS, we are having around 90,000 geotechnical professionals, either BTech pass, MTech, or PhD, or in the academia or industry, everyone, around 90,000, and IGS is having only 6,000 members.
Yeah, members are less, but money is more.
Out of 6,000, most of the from the teaching profession only. From the field, it very
Maximum is from the teaching.
Yeah. Madhvi can
So there's
continue.
no doubt we should have this IGS Foundation, and definitely I agree with Professor Sitaram and Babu that it has to have a skill set development program where most of the practicing engineers, students will be benefited. All this is good. And coming to the next part, the ethical practice, Dr. Anil said, everyone, all of us know about ethics, true, but very few of us practice ethics. Please agree with me, it's very difficult to practice ethics in this society, and like Professor Sitaram said, we are not sure how do we implement this ethics, and we are not sure how we can make people ethical, because it comes from inside, right? So it's always good to have this ambition that we should make people ethical. But ethics is not just about giving a wrong bearing capacity or giving a wrong report. This is a part of unethical practice, but bigger unethical practice can be, coming from academia, it can be stealing ideas, copying ideas, plagiarism, and more so nepotism, and greed for power, and unethical networking to grab the power. This we see everywhere. We are not any exception, our society. So when we start about ethics, it's very important that we start with right people in the right direction, so that going forward we make a perfect example for the international society. Look at Indian Geotechnical Society, and this is what they did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Madhvi. I think we had a very good opening remark from all the experts on the dais. I have the mic. So there are two things that emerge from this opening remark. One is the certification program. That is one of the objective of this foundation is to create a certification programs. We are actually trying to build different levels of certification program for geotechnical engineers. As Dr. Anil mentioned, IISc has a hospital and also the bed. There should be some collaborations with the young people going behind the senior people, professionals, to learn from experience. In this room, in the first 20 people, if I look at, there is 1,000 years of information and the experience available in this room. Across the country, you see how many lakhs of years of experience that we have. How do you make use of it? Because the technology is growing very fast. We are bringing other technology to geotechnical engineering, but the basic science, as Professor Shivpulaya said this morning, of learning the behavior will not change. So we need to impart that kind of skill to people. You will take, for my young friends, many years to learn yourself, but if you can learn from the experience available, you will learn much faster, and that is the need of the hour, and that is the objective of these foundations, to create skill and certification programs. Now I will open the floor for the participant and public to give their opinion. Yeah, Professor Pranesh first, and I'll come to Sri Rangachu.
So, good afternoon. I will take 7 minutes. See, now, the panelists, if you could see, there are 3 persons who are professionals, 3 persons are teachers, and they are teachers in institutes of higher learning. They are not the teachers of undergraduate program. So, there is a difference between undergraduate teaching and postgraduate teaching. As one of the persons mentioned, it may be taught at the 3rd year level itself. How many courses are being taught at the undergraduate level on soil mechanics, foundation engineering? Throughout the country, if you analyze, there are only a maximum of 2 subjects, of which 1 subject is an elective, 1 subject is a common course. In most of the places, laboratory is not included. As a result, they do not know how to identify the soil itself. Under these circumstances, how to go for the higher level and say, we will give you the ethics. Now, everyone or all the graduates, we have taken oath at the time of the convocation or the degree that I will be true to myself and will not involve in unethical manner. When we have taken the oath, all the people are involved in other than ethical manner. So, if that is the case, how to overcome all these different type of situations? And IGS Foundation gives them for money. For what? For giving for what? We do not know, right? So, the money comes, any research project that can be done. So, here before going, I will give one example that what we have done at IGS Chennai chapter. See, there was a lot of problem in the under-reamed piles. So, we took the decision to cast an under-reamed pile in the presence of the ISI Deputy Director, Indian Standardization, as well as from CBRI Roorkee. And whatever knowledge, site that they have specified for the under-reamed pile, we identify the similar site, we casted the pile as per the code. After 28 days or 30 days, the test was conducted, and we decided to exhume the pile also. We exhumed the pile, and before exhuming itself, we said, this under-reamed pile cannot be casted as per the thing, and bearing capacity will be very, or carrying capacity will be less. So, in the presence of the ISI director of the Chennai Science Center and the CBRI Roorkee, we showed that under-reamed pile cannot be cashed. Afterwards, after a lot of time, the whole code itself was modified for the under-reamed piles. So, that means unless we try to implement this and show physically, there is a gap between academics, industry, code making, and implementation mechanism. I said in the morning, how to implement is a major thing. We can make so many decisions, but we are not in a position to implement in a proper manner. Why? Because there is always an unknown parameter, corruption comes into the picture. When no unknown parameter comes into the picture, then nothing can be done. The very fact that the anti-corruption bureau exists, that means corruption is there. So there is no. Similarly, when we talk of ethical, what is the definition of ethics? It is a corporate ethics, professional ethics, academic ethics. So many things are there. Academic ethics is there. I have to teach properly in the time allotted. I evaluate as per the standard rules, of which how many are following the evaluation itself. That itself is a big question mark. So this is where we must be very, very clear. Instead of using the terminal ethics, first let us define mathematically what is ethics, not colloquially. What we are doing is colloquial definition is not going to help. Mathematically, can we say how to define ethics? With this, I will then, as I said, IGS Foundation, IGS has, if they are provided, now, as I mentioned in the morning, IGS Chennai chapter, we have published everything about laterite soil from the center, from the IGS Chennai chapter, but no, I don't think any center has started up this, though we have got, as on today, 55 chapters, including IGS New Delhi. They might not have published any document, any research document based on this invitation. First, let us practice. Here, I am not creating any difference between the academics and the society or an individual. The individual should not take it as a point. We must see how best IGS Foundation can work for the implementation of distribution of the knowledge, those people who are not qualified with MTech in soil mining foundation engineering. So BE students, as I said, take only one course, as well as we cannot do anything with that to implement ethics. With this, I think I have to be left only 6 minutes I have taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. So the theme of this discussion is ethical practice in forefront, but the objective, I showed you 2 case studies. Something gone wrong, whether it is done intentionally or otherwise, but we don't want that to happen, and that's the objective of foundation, to impart skill and knowledge through experience. So we'll have large pool of talented people in the country. So anybody else want to share, sir? Kuthond matadi.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಸರ್.
ಎಥಿಕ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಮಾತುಗಳು ನಡೆದವು, ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಥಿಕ್ಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಥಿಕ್ಸ್? ಕೆನ್ ಸಂಬಡಿ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ದ ಎಥಿಕ್ಸ್?
Legally defined.
No, because basically it is the ethics and the legal restrictions that should be implemented at the stage of passing the engineering, not after he becomes a graduate, PhD or MTech or whatever it is. Because that is something which is not there, and there is no law for engineering in our country. There is a law for everyone, all professions. Medical, even medical profession, architecture, pharmacy, all. Now, for that, advocates are also. There is a council, single council. This is a statutory thing from the passed by the parliament, and then because it cannot be for each state itself. Of course, my very learned friend Srikanth has done a great thing, and all the team totally for at least to bring it to the state level. So it should come at the whole central level in the whole country. Now, why it is not being done for engineers as a profession? Who is asking it? What is happening? I don't know. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. Because, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇದು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ಇದೆ. ಬೇರೆದು ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಂಚಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗು, ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕಲ್ಲು, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಕಲ್ಗಳಿಗೆ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ all people will go and ask for all the things. ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು ರಿಪೇರಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸಿವಿಲ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಬಂದಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಯಾರೂ ಕೇಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು BBMP ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಮಹಾನಗರ ಪಾಲಿಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ನರಕ ಪಾಲಿಕೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಆನ್ ಡೆಪ್ಯುಟೇಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ 1 year and 2 months or 3 months. Within the 3 months period, I said, I don't want to stay here, I will go back to the Karnataka Power Corporation. There is no point in doing that, because at the ground level where the work is to be done, if there is no correct knowledge, nothing can happen. And it is only the one first officer says to the second one, third says to the third one, fourth one, and finally what happens is some sweeper will do the work. This is the system which is happening. And so not only in that, in all departments, various departments, everywhere it is the same thing. Who has the knowledge of that? Nobody knows. Because here, I think our Sitaram Saab can definitely be of use for that. So that, see, in the whole of the education itself up to the B's completion of the engineering degree, it is better to introduce law. It is best to introduce because with one of my friend being also this thing, I asked him that was introduced in the Karnataka by that university, medical. Rajshekhar Iddalla, Rajshekhar. What happened was, when once he retired, the next person who came, he thought that it is not necessary for the people to pass this subject. Law, constitution law and all that, whatever it was placed. But nothing is required. So therefore it depends upon the person who is standing at the top of the level to bring in. So similarly, ethics is also the same way. What is morality? Morality, because ethics and morality and legality. It is a very clear distinction that has been made by the Supreme Court that what is moral is illegal. What is legal may not be moral. No, this is the Supreme Court's version on this morality and this. So, what is ethics for anything? Everything must be right. I mean, how are we going to improve this system? Can the generation by generation, can it improve? If it improves, it will be very good. Because if most of us, or at least some, I would say, I was reading one of the most precious article according to me, that is only on morality and other things. That big book by S.S. Gill says, I mean, it is about the pathology of corruption. The title of the book is The Pathology of Corruption. It goes into the ethos of the corruption itself, where it is not everybody is corrupt. But ultimately, in each government, in each what has happened, all the corruptions in all levels, it has been said. And ultimately what happens is, the instructions for anything should be coming from a real ethical person.
Correct.
If the top is not felt properly, then the bottom will not remain. That's all. I think this is the crux of the whole system. There is no point of saying that I will eradicate corruption, I will eradicate that, I will create so many laws. No. That is always within us, within the individual. If that individual does not have that ethics at the top level, then he cannot expect the ethics at the bottom levels also. I mean, this is only just I wanted to say the present situation which I have seen after my retirement, particularly I have 22 years, because earlier it was a little better. But somehow or the other there has been a great change. And money for money, money for money, money for money. Nobody takes anything above. Alexander's famous wish when he died was only,
Sir, you need to kindly conclude this.
I'll conclude. His famous, this thing was to only keep his two hands out of the coffin. So that, yeah.
1 minute, sir. Professor Shivpule, I want to take this and then I'll come to you, sir. Please take it. Thank you, sir. Please give me a hand. Thank you.
I think earlier I was talking in essay mode. Now I come to bullet point, questions and answers. First of all, I'm very happy with the task of the IGS Foundation. And next question is the elaborately presented and discussed by Professor Sringaraju also. Everybody knows about what is moral ethics and all. I think we don't have to deal so much with that. But my question is, unethical things are coming in the field of geotechnical engineering. What are the various things? One is lack of knowledge. Another is lack of facilities. Third one is other reasons like money. Say for example, 2 days somebody sent me a report of the soil bearing capacity and I saw how much he is charging, 4,000 he is charging. So I was wondering what kind of test they are doing for 4,000 to give the bearing capacity. And first of all, we should understand for that project, bearing capacity alone is sufficient, and evaluation of the bearing capacity, what are the various tests he has adopted. So what my summary to IGS is to say whether you can give sufficient background knowledge to the professional practicing engineers for to do this kind of projects. Of course, everybody knows what is the unethical things that are possible in geotechnical engineering. My knowledge, I said these are the 3 or 4 where there is a possibility of unethical thing coming into picture. So kindly focus geotechnical engineering, if at all you are dealing with unethical things, and how to identify, how to address this problem rather than generally debating. In fact, it is introduced at undergraduate courses and all engineering sources, branches, ethical things and all these things. So ethical, legal, all those things, I think we should not go too deep into that and identify more focus on what are the unethical practices, possible unethical practices, and what are the things, how to guide our practicing engineer. I think I will not take even 1 minute more.
Thank you. Sir, take 1 minute, sir, please.
One of the things I wanted to say, Mr. Srirangaraji was 30 years he was an engineer and 20 years he was a lawyer. No, he has written a big book on ethics. Shortly it is going to be published in next month. He has written a beautiful book on ethics. He has done about 60 arbitrations. So that he knows all the ins and outs of engineering as well as the legal. Therefore, he has written a book and it is going to be published, I think, in next month.
One minute, please. So, in law, what is called the efficient breach. So we don't want to efficient breach. So we don't want to bring that efficient breach into this objective of the foundation. The foundation is to impart skill and knowledge. Things. Yes, please.
Sir, when we discuss about the ethics, I think government is the biggest. Not culprit. What I mean to say is, should be the biggest custodian of the ethics. But what has happened here is, the practice that government system is having is promoting unethical practices, which we have already, I think my lecture when I gave here, elaborately mentioned how the government system has got the lapses with regards to the professionalism and with regards to many other aspects. And when as our Dr. Anil Joseph mentioned, the system is not in place. When the system is not in place, no ethics can come into existence. And we should concentrate on the system that should be in place. And Srirang Raju sir has lightly mentioned that our professional regulation and other things should have come long, long ago. And fortunately, we have our Karnataka Professional Regulation Act. Just now, it is going to be promulgated. And at the center, if Sitaram sir takes it with sincerity, we'll be really thankful for, for this particular act, so that it will promote the ethics. Because ethics, unless there is a system, ethics cannot be implemented according to me. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to hear from a couple of youngsters before we go to the final round. So any thoughts from any one of you? Quicker, 1 minute.
IISc has already introduced professional ethics as a compulsory subject in final year. But it's not being taught very seriously in all colleges. Whereas I had such very fine paper in it, and I happened to go inside an examination room when the ethics was a paper. I was seeing people copying. So there itself was unethical practice. So IISc should see that professional ethics is made a compulsory subject and is seriously taught to the students.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Vijendra, please. A couple of youngsters from industry and the students, then we'll have the concluding remarks.
So here, it's not a question of ethics or ethical, because all of us have gone through the moral classes, morality and all. Here, as a professional, I think it is the arrogance which is the main cause of failures, not the ethical. Because if the person is ignorant, okay, every one of us is ignorant to some level. So if we accept that with humbleness, then professionally we'll be finding the good solution, as the lecture was demonstrating. If the person combines with the ignorance, if arrogance is combined, then what we see, the failure will happen. And most of the civil engineering structures, what I see around is, as Anil mentioned, it is non-engineered, okay? And we see that we have done this, so I can do this. So that should not happen. And one more thing in the education front, what I feel is, every country, probably in the Western countries, we have the PE exams, that is Professional Engineering Practice exam, which we lack. So we thoroughly believing in what we learn or what we teach and what we make our students in 4 years inside the room. So after going through 1 or 2 years of professional practice, he should take up the PE exam before he enters into individual capacity, if he enters seriously into the profession. And the second thing is, the ethics should not be related to knowledge base, okay? So all this we should look into before we look into why these happenings around us. And one more thing, from the professional body, it is more than a money, we need their time. As a teacher, what I feel is, our student need your time, so that you should offer a course, not in an individual college or individual institute. Some of the institutes around should combine together, and you should spend 2 months in Bangalore or whatever the region, and the students should collect there, and also you should share the experience there as a course. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vijendra. Anybody else from? Yeah, please. Just take a minute, please. And one more from the students, then I will have the concluding session.
Why are engineers and doctors valued in our society? It is because if a doctor commits a mistake, a person will die, or if an engineer commits a mistake, the entire building will collapse and the people will die. So we cannot afford to commit a mistake in our professional practice. So ethical practice for me as an engineer is to do the right thing for that project. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudhindra. Any students there? So before I go to, anybody want to share your thoughts on today's, yeah, please. This is the last word, then we'll go to the concluding session.
I'm Arun. Thank you, ma'am. It was a great session in front of all of you. I think I want to share something. Sir, as of now, all of the institutes and all engineering colleges, we hold a lot of data, and we don't share and we don't have that common platform. All the data, whether structures, geotech or water, all other branches. If we have common platform, it will be very easy, whether it is borehole or it is bearing capacity. For common engineers at the site level, for single story building, double story building, those data they will be missing, and they just will be assuming the adjacent building and the site seniors which they will be practicing with. It will be good if each municipality and each everyone in our respective states, respective municipalities, some standard values, if they are available. With this hall, we are practicing these fields with so many years. I think we have that data, and our Prime Minister also emphasizes on that data. If that data is openly made available to all the public and engineers, it will be very useful. And with the ideas, I actually work in Karnataka Power Corporation, and I am sponsored here. I got a lot of time to think while leading literature and coming across Anbagan sir, Raghuveer sir, Madhulata ma'am, Babu sir. I got this idea, sir, at the national level, they're trying to make it some maps. These are all the maps which help us, whether it is bearing capacity maps, seismic zone maps, and improving on it, it will be really helpful for us. And ethics is something, if it becomes costly, we generally don't adopt ethical practices. We just make some lapses. Even at sites, we just ignore small things and we just practice some things. And some things, in ethics also, 100% it will not be possible. I was not able to practice 100% ethical, but I was just trying to do whatever good was possible in the site. Ethics we all have in our heart, all the engineers, we have it in our heart, only it comes to sometimes some pressures, other things, but we try to do the good things.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. So we'll have the closing remarks. Start with you, sir, first. One.
I think there are a lot of good positive points came up. So what I would like to just try to summarize, what you all said. So today, actually, I heard what we teach in BTech or BE engineering. Very little we teach about soil mechanics and geotechnical engineering and practice. So Pranesh very clearly highlighted that. But unfortunately, 80% of our students in higher education are only UG. And another people or other set of people are diploma people. They also don't study. So I think mostly because this problem is arising because of lack of expertise of geotechnical engineering. I think this is a very serious issue because I'll tell you, as many of you said, there is only one soil mechanics course, and second one is foundation engineering is elective, and laboratories, there is one laboratory in soil mechanics and geotechnical engineering in most of the colleges. So from that they don't get an expertise. And very few people with postgraduate are available in the nation. And that is one thing clearly came out. The second point is, when we do the testing, it's not just more about the ethical practice. It is all came out from your discussion. It is more of your ignorance and you don't have a knowledge, and arrogance adds to it. That is, I know it and I have done correctly. So these are the issues. Actually, they're human issues. I think we need to also prepare our young people for really to accept things and also to skill themselves to a higher level and do this. I think these 2 points very categorically came out. It is more than the ethical practices. Definitely there are issues with ethical practices also. How do we do that? And one is like professional engineers. Let me also highlight that point, third point. In professional practice, what has happened in civil engineering, okay? Most of these, what you have done is, congratulations to you, at state level you have done it. And central level also, with Professor Anant, there was a committee made at IISc. I also got the report. The report was finalized, but ministry did not accept because large number of people who are practicing in civil engineering are not the engineering graduates. They are not the engineering graduates. Majority of them are contractors which without any knowledge of civil engineering. I think what Shidangraju said is very right. So these civil engineers, I don't know who graduate, where they are. They are not at the project site. They may be in a very big projects like L&T, and some people will hire them and there they are doing it. But majority of the small contract works which happen for repair works and also smaller value projects, hardly core engineering people are involved. This is, I think, we need to make a clear awareness as yes. So government also should bring some policies. We should engage the government. I think this professional bill will definitely help. So in the new government, we will try to push that. We already taken it up. At the national level, we have already taken it up because document is ready. And it is Professor Anant's committee also given input. So we are going to put that to the parliament, but it has to go through parliament. So otherwise there is no value for that. So it has to be sent to parliament. No, please sit down.
Kudali, sir.
Yes.
Punishment. The punishment part, if there is even law council also, if an advocate does not do anything, or he is charged with certain thing, the bar council will call for a meeting and then close it off. So he will be removed from the whole bar council list. The doctor also will be removed from the doctor's list. And the doctor's list is state-wise, number-wise. Each state, when once a number ABCD is there, it is just like a car number or any number. He is the only person, that's all.
Correct. Engineers bill should address this punishment also. But what has happened is most of these regulatory bodies, there are 14 regulatory bodies in the nation, starting from National Medical Council, Pharmacy Council, Architecture Council, and then even Teachers Council, and engineering like AICTE, and similarly there are many Nursing Council, Dental Council, Veterinary Council. There are 14 of them. We had a very recently a meeting, all of them, or their chairmen or the presidents. And also, I would like to tell you, the government is also thinking to differentiate between a regulation and a professional practice. Soon, it will be given, professional practice will be given, handed over to these professional bodies, and regulation will be taken by the Higher Education Council of India. I think this is going to be the first 100 days of the new government, if the new government is the same BJP comes in. Okay? That's the dichotomy. We'll all wait till June 4th. But the last point is, I think we have a lot of points, good points came out on the professional practice and ethics. And ethics cannot be taught through the textbooks. Let me tell you, you should inculcate in our families, in our houses. We should. Yes, within. Exactly, Professor Madhavi has highlighted correctly. So it has to come from within. But anyway, we need to also put in that that is already been done, but it is a zero credit course, so that it's not going to take away the burden of 160 credits. So the last point is, that is why the foundation is very essential. To at least make, where there is no expertise, this IGS Foundation can identify the expertise and say, we are here, experts. We can help you. So this is where I think some proactive work has to happen from the Indian Geotechnical Society at the national level. And at least, be there more than very large projects. I think it should be for a very small contractors. There your help is required than for a very big project where there are a lot of experts. Okay? There is no shortage or a dearth of expertise, because if you look at the engineers across the world, majority of them in Indian diaspora only. We have actually from 80s, number of engineering colleges and engineers graduated works to something like crores. 3 crores, 30 million engineers are there across the world, and these are, you name a company, everywhere, an Indian only will come as an expert, whether it is bridge or a software or an IT. One thing we all have to accept that we have delivered the engineering education, whatever the problems we have, not just for India, for the whole world. Okay? In that note, let me close it.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Professor, for summarizing on behalf of all of us. So we are just between lunch and yourself. I just have one question before I wrap up and hand over to Raghuveer for memento distribution. How many of you here will encourage this IGS Foundation to go on? If you agree, please say yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Everybody yes.
And don't agree, say no. Yeah, no. The feedback from workshop, right? Things. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly the objective. Is no. Yeah, Sadi. Yeah. So with this, I hand over the. First of all, I thank all the panel members here, Professor Sitaram, Dr. Anil Joseph, AP Singh, Dr. Babu, and Professor Madhvi Lata for sharing their insight, and all the participants for participating. Thank you very much, and I will hand over the floor to Raghuveer for further proceedings.
Please wait. Please wait for us. Please wait. Yeah. So may I now request for Madhvi to present mementos to the dignitaries. Professor Sitaram, please accept the memento. Professor Dr. Anil Joseph. Professor Shivkumar Babu. Dr. AP Singh. Dr. Parsardi. I request Dr. Anil Joseph to present memento to Professor Madhvi Lata. Yeah, she's there. So, thank you all. Now we'll adjourn for lunch. Lunch is being served at the dining hall next to the main guest house. So once you go out of this hall, there is a road on the right side. End of that road leads to the guest house. So we will reassemble here at about 2:15. Okay? Allah, for all the people, senior citizens, vehicles are there. We'll guest house, dining hall in the guest house.